Anybody that's read Man Alive knows that you get halfway through the story and you have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on. Like, this guy has a gun that he shoots people with, and for some reason doesn't get arrested, and now there's a monkey. I don't know, where did the monkey come from?
It's very Chestertonian. Nights are strong with the darkness long, and the dark is alive with rain. It's the type of thing you stay inside. It's the type of thing you don't want to venture into. It's the type of thing that you don't exactly embrace. And yet, at the very beginning, there is heard a hymn, when the panes are dim, and never before or again. So wait. What's that song? What's a song sung in the midst of this time? And only in the midst of this time? Begs the questions.
There's a reason he started with his public ministry at a feast, at a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
He ended then by dying the most brutal and painful death that any human being has ever had to endure. I would say it's a tragedy, and if that was all we looked at, it would be a tragedy. Very Shakespearean, because in the classical sense, a tragedy is when things start off okay, and then they end very badly. Romeo and Juliet, everything starts off okay, and then a couple of mixed-up teenagers run away from home and end up dead. But it is not a tragedy. It is a romance. A romance in the classical sense is where things are good, and then they're bad. Then they're good, and they're bad again. And ultimately, they end up being good.
What are we drinking tonight, Ethan?
So this, and I have the bottle, is the Dragon's Milk Crimson Keep.
Yeah, he was texting me this over the weekend.
Yes.
He found this.
It's their red ale. I was very happy that there was another Dragon's Milk that I had not tried yet.
Yeah, he can only send certain things in all caps over the interwebs, over the means of texting, whatever your means is. But that was in it.
Their Dragon's Milk Stout, in my opinion, is the only stout that has a chance of competing with Guinness. The Guinness Extra Stout, which I like even better than the regular stout. Mm-hmm. Like, if you put the two side by side, I'd have to call it a tie. It is that good. And the Tales of Gold, you and I have already discussed more than once. That is easily the best golden ale you will ever be able to find anywhere. Yeah. If you see it, buy it. It is that good. It's like, I just describe it, it's like drinking buttery gold.
Basically. Go watch our unsponsored review of it, which still exists on this channel. So
this Crimson Keep is their red ale, which it has, kind of a reddish hue to it. If you hold it up to the light, it's got kind of a
little bit.
Kind of a burgundy color to it. Almost. Not really a burgundy. What's that color that's like red and brown?
And burgundy works.
Burgundy kind of works. Maroon, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's one of those like color swatches at Menards that has a really stupid name that makes no sense. But anyway, it definitely is a red color. I don't tend to be a fan of red ales. I really don't. They just tend to come off a little bit strong. They're either too fruity or they're too hoppy. But this one does it just right. And I think I know their secret. I think I know why Dragon's Milk knocks it out of the park. It's because they age the stuff in bourbon barrels. And bourbon's kind of like bacon. It just makes everything better. Man, now I want to have bourbon and bacon. That sounds like a really good snack.
I want to say I've done that for breakfast before. So, but of course I would have.
Yeah, you don't have a wife to tell you that not to drink bourbon at 7:00 in the morning.
No. I've had what it probably was, if it wasn't bourbon and bacon, it was coffee beans that were like laced or soaked in bourbon, which you could buy, and bacon for breakfast. So,
coffee beans soaked in bourbon.
Yeah, and then coffee brewed with said beans.
Yeah, because the couple tobaccos that I've smoked that have been soaked in bourbon have just been really good.
Yeah, I've had the Maker's Mark ones. You can find those at some places. So
there's just bourbon makes everything better.
Excellent. And speaking of that, that's
fittingly, I drink my beer out of our Chesterton out of my Chesterton's pint glass, and you will see why shortly. But you're going to hear from Chesterton tonight.
Mm-hmm. And not once, and not thrice, but twice. So, what's funny is that you compared it to Guinness Extra Stout because I have that downstairs in the fridge, and so I could be drinking that, and that would be a perfect pairing because Guinness Extra Stout is amazing. But I have gone for something that was a gift over the weekend. A mutual friend of ours decided to give me a couple bottles of bourbon as a gift. And one of them was this Bondstone Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Double Oak. It's a very nice
That's bottle. A nice label.
Yeah, nice label, nice bottle. And since I read things off of labels on this podcast, I'm not going to stop. Bondstone is a full-bodied, high-rye bourbon, crafted and distilled in the heart of Kentucky, uniquely smooth, bold, and complex. Bondstone features a panoply of rich and diverse flavors. Its spiciness is, because of rye, is complemented by a diverse medley of vanilla, cinnamon, and honey notes that culminate in a rich, clean finish. And yada, 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 aged a minimum of 4 years. So, I will say that I quite like it. Apparently, part of the reason he picked it is because it's won multiple gold medals. I presume like the San Francisco Spirits Competition or a different one. That's the only one I've heard of. Yeah, I think it's really good. He did say that this place also makes a triple oaked and a quad oaked bourbon as well, which I would be intrigued to try at some point.
I would too, but that sounds like it might be really tanniny.
Might be. Apparently the quad oaked has won a gold medal. So.
Has won what? Oh,
has won
a gold medal.
A gold medal. This has won 2, I think.
It looks really dark.
Yeah, it definitely is dark, and both of us have had Woodford Reserve Double Oaked before, and there's a real richness to that. This isn't quite to that level of richness, but I would say that it's really pleasant and good. Definitely smooth and spicy, like they talk about. Yeah, really like it. So, and again, you're not getting complex tasting notes from me, as I've said before, but that's what you got.
No, we are not connoisseurs. Yep. We drink what we like,
and we appreciate the fine things.
The two things we do well is drink and know things.
Oh no, the reference from the show that shall never be recommended.
No, but that quote can be stated over and over and over again because it is very accurate.
It is of us.
That's what I do. It's what we do. We drink and we know things.
Mm-hmm.
But we also admit when we don't know things.
You know, that's what one can do, right?
Intelligence is not knowing something. Intelligence is knowing the limits of your knowledge and knowing how to find out.
Mm-hmm. There's such a thing as humble pontificating. Mm-hmm. It's also known as podcasting.
I'm going to ramble on for 2 hours about something that I know nothing about. Or something that I know a lot about and think I know everything.
All we can do is try, right? So, on the subject of said pontification, poetry is our thing recently, and we're not stopping. We have more poetry to discuss. We are, I know this is heresy, but we are breaking from doing Lord of the Rings stuff for a bit.
Well, we don't want to run out of that too quickly. We have a legitimate excuse.
Mm-hmm. And there are other great poets in the world besides Tolkien, examples of which are G.K. Chesterton and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And so we each have a poem from each of them that we've decided to bring and discuss, read and reflect on, and all the good things that one ought to do with poetry around the fire and with a good glass of liquor or beer in his or her hand. So, with that, any opening thoughts from you, or do you want to dive right in?
I don't really have too many thoughts other than I probably went as deep as I will ever go into any poem when we did Beren and Luthien. Because in my humble opinion, that is easily in the top 5 of poems that have ever been composed.
That's a fair assessment.
And my top 5 and top 3, they're usually not in any particular order. It's just these 5, and then the next one is 6.
All right.
And it depends on what mood I'm in. But Tolkien just is the best. He is the number one. That is an undisputed fact of nature and of history. In the next 5, underneath Tolkien, Chesterton is certainly high up. And he's English to the bone. So his poetry and his writing in general is at times very bombastic, is at times very odd, and even a little bit silly. Anybody that's read Man Alive knows that you get halfway through the story and you have absolutely no idea what the hell is going on. Like, this guy has a gun that he shoots people with, and for some reason doesn't get arrested, and now there's a monkey. I don't know, where did the monkey come from?
It's very Chestertonian.
Yeah, it's like, imagine if you were able to trip without the use of narcotics.
Okay.
It's like tripping, but without the LSD. That's what reading Chesterton can be like. But in a good way. When you're not reading his philosophical works, like The Everlasting Man or Orthodoxy or The Heretics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this will be sort of a simple, very English poem. So it's... The best way I can describe that something is very English is that it invokes this image in your head of a man in a tavern. A man just sitting at a bar. Or a man just sitting in the corner muttering to himself this delightful poem. And having the time of his life. And more on my thoughts on the Englishman later, which are heavily influenced by the great Joseph Pierce. But this is a poem called The Rolling English Road. And there will be historical context to this that most English would know, most Americans would not, and that I would be more than happy to explain. It's a short poem, so I can read it and we can go back through it. Before the Roman came to Rye, or out to Severn strode, the rolling English drunkard made the rolling English road. A reeling road, a rolling road that rambles round the shire, and after him the parson ran, the sexton and the squire. A merry road, a mazy road, and such as we did tread, the night we went to Birmingham by way of Beachy Head. I knew no harm of Bonaparte, and plenty of the squire, and for the fight the Frenchmen I did not much desire. But I did bash their bagonets because they came arrayed to straighten out the crooked road an English drunkard made, where you and I went down the lane with ale mugs in our hands, the night we went to Glastonbury by way of Goodwin Sands. His sins were there forgiven him, or why do flowers run behind him and the hedges all strengthening in the sun? The wild thing went from left to right and knew not which was which, but the wild rose was above him when they found him in the ditch. God pardon us, nor harden us, we did not see so clear the night we went to Bannockburn by way of Brighton Pier. My friends, we will not go again, or ape in ancient rage, or stretch the folly of our youth to be the shame of age, but walk with clearer eyes and ears this path that wandereth, and see undrugged in evening light the decent inn of death. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. This is a very delightful poem and a lot of sort of subtle references. Before the Roman came to Rye, or out to Severn Stroads, this first verse is talking about the island of Britain was made by the English, which technically would be in reference to the Anglo-Saxons who conquered the land from the Britons. But he's speaking sort of both of them, that the Anglo-Saxon and the Briton are what makes England, are what makes the tradition of the English. And the rolling English drunkard is just a good Englishman, a proper Englishman, likes his ale. He likes his drink. And it's sort of evoking this sort of image of the road not being perfectly straight, sort of wobbling back and forth, but the path is being beaten out by this wobbling and very happy and merry drunkard. And after him the parson ran, the sexton and the squire. So every figure of authority and good repute is sort of following him in the same path, but they're perfectly sober, so they're just making sure he doesn't wander too far. The line about Birmingham, I'm not entirely certain about. I'm sure somebody can probably clarify that for me. But in the next line, I knew no harm of Bonaparte and plenty of the squire. This is basically that sort of, that localism, that I don't know anything about Bonaparte. And I don't care about Bonaparte. I don't care about Napoleon. He's on the continent. I'm here, sitting at the tavern with my lads. And I don't like the squire, who's usually... The squire is lowest on the feudal rung, but he's a kind of a lord, like a city lord or a town leader. So I get plenty of harm from the direct authority figure, but Napoleon is a sort of far-off threat that I don't know much about and I don't really care about. Like we today can say, like, I don't like my mayor of my city. I don't really care about Putin, because he's on the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm. Or at least we ought to think that way.
For to fight the Frenchmen, I did not much desire. So it's like, I don't have any desire to join the British Army during the Napoleonic Wars and just go and face Napoleon's army. I don't really have any desire for that. But I did bash their bagonets because they came arrayed to straighten out the crooked road an English drunkard made. This is a line about the Battle of Hastings, I believe. This is a line about William the Conqueror's invasion. So he's sort of hopping around in history a little bit. But William the Conqueror was French, and Napoleon was technically Corsican, but also French. So we've got that connection there. This whole stanza is basically about, I care not for the things outside of my borders. It's not quite full isolationism, because that's also bad, but it's more of I personally only really care for the things that are near me and directly around me. I remember shortly after that war in the Ukraine started, or after all the hype was getting up for it, there was this UFC fighter that was being interviewed, and somebody asked him about it for some reason, because of course we need to ask UFC fighters who spend their living getting punched in the face for their opinion. But he actually had something really intelligent to say. He said, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, and I don't care to know. But if a fight were to come to my hometown in Arkansas, I'll dig my boots in the ground. That's why we go to Hastings. We go to Hastings to fight the Norman. And Glastonbury. He also does something very clever. So he references a tavern at the end. So Beachy Head in the first stanza and Goodwin Sands in the second stanza. Those are both taverns. Those are the names of pubs in England. Probably pubs that are in London that Chesterton frequented. His sins they were forgiven him, or why do flowers run behind him and the hedges all strengthening in the sun? The wild thing went from left to right, and knew not which was which, but the wild rose was above him when they found him in the ditch. That's the War of the Roses. It's specifically speaking about Richard III. His sins they were forgiven him, or why do flowers run? So Richard III is very probably unjustly vilified by the English. Most of that is due to the fact that he was the last Plantagenet.
What is a Plantagenet?
Henry II, the direct descendants of William the Conqueror are the Plantagenets. That's technically the beginning of the Plantagenet line. But it really has a firm beginning with Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, who are the parents of Richard the Lionheart, and King John. That King John. The King John who did his job so badly that the lords of England cornered him in the woods, pointed their swords at him, and said, sign this, or we're just going to take your power from you.
Magna Carta King John.
Yes. There was only one genuinely very good Plantagenet king, and that was Henry V, and he died at the age of 26 of dysentery.
Ouch.
He was known to be very, very good, very humble, very good on the battlefield. It's Shakespeare's best play, in my opinion, Henry V. But their line goes from Henry II all the way to Richard III. Now, there's a lot of drama around Richard III that I won't get into, but his throne was usurped by Henry Tudor, who became Henry VII. He was often called the Winter King. And he started to claim that he had right to the throne because some aunt of his was married to somebody that was a bastard son of somebody else, so that makes me the rightful heir. And Richard said, no. And that's how the War of the Roses happened. But the wild rose was above him when they found him in the ditch. Richard III died on the battlefield. The wild rose being Henry VII, who was the father of Henry VIII.
Okay.
And we all know how he turned out.
Wonderfully.
But these last two lines, parts from that a little bit. God pardon us, nor harden us, we did not see so clear, the night we went to Bannockburn by way of Brighton Pier. Bannockburn is a place in Scotland, where Robert the Bruce faced the English and defeated them, and that was one of the more decisive battles in his campaign to become King of Scotland. So here, Chesterton is admitting that the English were wrong to invade and conquer Scotland. And yeah, I would tend to agree. Culturally speaking, the Scottish need to be themselves. They need their own ways. I'm a fan of Scottish independence. But the cultures, maybe not so much now, but especially back then, the cultures were so vastly different between England in the south and Scotland in the north that the English had no business ruling over the Scottish at all. But that's a talk for another time. My friends, go ahead.
It's a great way of putting it, though. Like, forgive us, but don't harden us. No, we need to feel it. We did not see so clear.
Let us be forgiven, but let not our hearts be hardened. Because this is something we should regret.
Mm-hmm.
Something we should never, ever forget that we did. Or ever stop regretting. My friends, we will not go again, or ape an ancient rage, or stretch the folly of our youth to be the shame of age. But walk with clearer eyes and ears this path that wandereth, and see undrugged in evening light the decent inn of death. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. Temperance. This entire last stanza is, now let us be temperate. We will not go again or ape an ancient rage. We're not going to go to fight. We are not going to cloud our judgment. We're not going to get into brawls. Stretch the folly of our youth to be the shame of age. You do stupid things when you're drunk. Everybody does. Unless you're the kind of drunk that, like, 2 drinks and you're out. Stretch the folly of youth to be the shame of age. Things that you regret when you're older. But walk with clearer eyes and ears this path that wandereth. Remember, he said it's a winding and lilting road made by an English drunkard. Not an easy one. It's hard to navigate a road like that, so your eyes and ears have to be clear. And see undrugged in evening light the decent inn of death. The road is your life, and when the sun begins to set, you need a place to rest. Better you should see it clearly. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. You will miss out on a lot being drunk. If you just spend your life, and not just with drunkenness, but if you just spend your life with carousing and riotousness and just all sorts of decadence and excess, there's a lot you're going to miss out on because you're not going to be thinking clearly. You know, just to sit down and take in what's around you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just a few pages of a very good book. But he still brings it back to the tavern. Still brings it back to the pub and the inn. Because they are places of rest. This seems like a good time for me to mention something that I heard Joseph Pierce say. I think it was on Pints with Aquinas years ago. And he said, I'm an Englishman. To me, the greatest thing in life is to have a beer in my hand, sitting at the English pub. Or, let's see, how did he put it? He said, in every town in England, every proper town in England, there's a village pub, a village church, and a village green. And on Sundays, the old men sit at the pub and drink their beer while they listen to the church bells and watch the lads play cricket on the village green. For us, we're Americans, so for us, that's... I don't know, I think they have laws about building a bar right by the park, but...
Maybe.
But more for us, it's, sitting at the bar with your mates, watching a football game or a baseball game or a hockey game, and taking it in. A way to relax at the end of the day. Although I particularly like the point that Pierce made about the village church, because it is always there, and your faith is always there to guide you, and God is always watching you. So good that the village church is there to remind you to watch how many of these you have at one time.
Yeah, obviously we don't condone drunkenness, but
No.
what's funny is that there's there's the happy image of that, I think, of a guy having a beer or two in him and the world being lighter, right? And you could imagine that type of person being the type of person that made the rolling English road. You can imagine a certain frivolity to that, like, oh, he went where he went, and thus this road and this town and the layout, came about, and it has character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something really cool about that character. The poem, as you've just presented it, with the rich history that I never would have guessed at with any of that, really, or not much of it. It's like we did all these things that we shouldn't have done.
Particularly the line about Bannockburn.
Mm-hmm.
God pardon us nor harden us, we did not see so clear. The night we went to Bannockburn by way of Brighton Pier. In a drunken English haze, we went and killed the Scots.
Sad times.
The times that must be remembered, and must never go unremembered.
This is a weird thing to say, I guess, but I wonder if the American version of that is all of the Native American tributes and such. And do I think that we need to do that to the level that we do? No. Or that some people think we do? No. Do we need to give the land back? No. No. For all sorts of reasons.
Well,
but,
for one thing, what would they do with it?
Yeah, exactly.
There's not enough of them to cover it.
No, it's not within the common good. And yet, we made a lot of treaties and we broke them. And we did kill a lot of people along the way, and the Trail of Tears was a thing, and it wasn't the only thing.
Wounded Knee.
So, and not that the Indians did nothing to us. That's not true either.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. It is reasonable to acknowledge that part of our history, right? We don't have to whitewash it.
Yeah. You can acknowledge both good things and bad things, and you can still love your country even though it has done bad things.
Yeah.
You can still acknowledge, yes, the United States participated in the bombing of civilian targets during the Second World War.
Which is heinous.
It's incredibly heinous. Yes, we certainly should not... Maybe dropping the bombs in and of itself was not the wrong thing, but they should not have been dropped on civilian populations. And by the bombs, I mean those bombs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean Fat Man and Little Boy. Should not have been dropped on civilian populations. And from what I know, President Truman carried that to his grave.
How could you not? How could you not?
Knowing what he did.
You could try and rationalize it like, yeah, more lives would have been lost if we didn't do it.
Yeah,
no, that's not enough of a
reportedly,
reason.
he called Oppenheimer a pansy, saying, "What do you have to be sorry for? I have more blood on my hands than you have on yours." Which is an interesting point. Who is more to blame, the man that designed the weapon or the man that fired it? It's the man who used it.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down.
Yeah, you can't really get around. You can't really get around that.
Well, he wouldn't have used it if it hadn't been designed. Argument is stupid because he would have found something else.
Nope. Presenting we don't blame the serpent for Adam and Eve's fall. We blame Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And we make a great joke about blaming Eve.
Yeah.
Because she did screw up. Pretty badly.
She did. She is in heaven now. But she did mess up very badly.
Yeah.
Which, if that doesn't give you hope, the woman who technically doomed the entire human race is certainly in heaven.
Yeah, not to make light of Fat Man and Little Boy in any way, but Truman could take some ounce of comfort from that, I think, and then go repent.
Now, there were things that Nagasaki was actually the secondary target. The primary target was a massive munitions storage that was up the mountain a ways from Nagasaki, but the cloud cover was so bad they wouldn't be able to drop it. So they had to go to the secondary target. Nagasaki was a big industrial town, major port city. There was strategic value in destroying it, but no civilian casualty is acceptable. Sometimes the reality is that they have to happen. Sometimes they do happen.
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes there's no way around them happening. That does not make them acceptable.
The principle of double effect doesn't work here.
No.
Not there. But what a comforting... Well, comforting is the wrong word. No, there is something comforting about that last stanza. Like, yeah, we're not going to do this again, but let's just be at peace. Let's just be at peace. Let's return to the simple things of life. Let us forgive. Let us be forgiven. Let us ask for mercy. You know? And just attend to that simple life that I celebrated in the first two stanzas.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like we said so many times, focus on what matters most and finding the ordinary and the extraordinary. Like, it's all there. And the consequences of not doing it. Like the bombs. Or Numenor.
Mm-hmm. See, we mentioned Lord of the Rings when we can.
We did.
It gets brought back to Middle-earth somehow.
Done messed up.
The Numenor Principle. Man screws up so badly that God has to literally reshape the earth.
Yep. You know, this is a behind-the-scenes thing for people, but when I edit the shorts, the platform we use for recording will give me suggested ones that's already like pre-cut out, and one of them is called the Numenor Principle. So we may have started something with that.
Nice. Like it. I coined a term.
You did. Put it on a t-shirt now. Somehow.
When we get a shop up and running, write that down. When we get a shop up and running.
I have failed to write many things down, and I need to go back and make amends for that. So
that will be a T-shirt of ours when we have a T-shirt shop. Mm-hmm. The Numenor Principle, and on the back it says, and it's a picture of a ship or something.
Yeah, you're winning at
life.
On
the back it says, "Man screws up so badly that God reshapes the earth."
You're winning at life if you haven't invoked the Numenor Principle yet.
Yes.
But back to this poem. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that. Thanks for the explanation. Thanks for the rich history behind it too. I mean, when I read that and I suggested it to you that, you know, like, hey, this is something we could do.
I was going to mention that you were the one that suggested it to me because I had other Chesterton poems in mind that made way less sense than this one. So,
all right. Hey, you still brought it. But I just thought of it as something like fun and light that I didn't fully understand, but, you know, seemed to fit with like the themes that we had talked about, and never would have gotten the rich history. So thank you for that. Now for my Chesterton poem, I have something that is even shorter. And even though we're not in the Christmas season anymore, even for us Catholics, like that season is past, and has been past for a little bit now. You know what? You can still talk about Christmas. It's still
Jesus. Jesus was a baby for more than 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, he hasn't gone anywhere. He's still a baby. He's still with us, and it's still winter. It's still really cold, and this week especially, we're recording this on January the 27th. It hasn't just been cold in my neck of the woods, you know, where on the radio this morning they specified that the high today would be 8 above as opposed to below. Apparently, like, the entire country has gotten hit with, you know, cold at this point. So, and
I hear Los Angeles got down to a balmy 65 the other day.
Yeah, honestly,
that's how cold it is.
Yeah, somewhere in Florida was saying like it's 70, and they weren't exactly thinking it was warm. And I was on the phone to them earlier. But elsewhere in the South, like, there were legitimate things that happened with the coals and another big freeze and lots of people losing power and such.
I saw the pictures of the frozen power lines. I was talking with when I went out to dig my car out of the snow the other day. We're digressing, but this is poignant. Went out to dig the car out of the snow the other day, and my neighbor was digging out his car too, and we started chatting a little bit. And just getting to know each other. I mentioned going to school in North Dakota, so I was used to this sort of thing a little bit. And he goes, "Oh, do they have power lines underground up there?" I said, "You know, come to think of it, I didn't see a single telephone pole, so I imagine so."
Might be some.
He goes, "Yeah, I imagine there's a point where the power lines freeze one time too many, and they go, you know what, maybe we should put them in the ground."
It's almost as if they know something and have to deal with it every single year.
It is much cheaper to go through the greater expense of digging a ditch and then putting the power line in it and getting the kind of power line that can withstand the cold than it is to have to, every single year, thaw the power lines so people can have their heat.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that up there. You would not.
Pro tip, in North Dakota, use gas. Gas lines don't freeze. If they do, I think you're in the lowest circle of hell, according to Dante, I think.
Sure.
That's the only way they're going to freeze that cold. Anyway,
Judas
continue.
is in the place where the gas lines froze.
Continue.
But yeah, in the midst of what you could say is...
In the bleak midwinter.
No. No. Not that. That's not what I've chosen to read.
I'm just saying that's what it feels like.
Why am I friends with you?
You know, my wife asked me that question a lot, too. I can say that because she's not in the room right now.
My goodness.
If she was in the room, she'd be glaring at me.
Hey, you'd still be smiling. But anyway, you could say that, well, in the midst of the darkness and the cold and everything else this time of year, this is still a fitting poem. So this is A Child of the Snows by Chesterton. There is heard a hymn when the panes are dim, and never before or again. When the nights are strong with the darkness long, and the dark is alive with rain. Never we know, but in sleet and in snow, the place where the great fires are. At the midst of the earth is a raging mirth, and the heart of the earth a star. And at night we win to the ancient inn, where the child in the frost is furled. We follow the feet where all souls meet, at the inn at the end of the world. The gods lie dead when the leaves lie red, for the flame of the sun is flown. The gods lie cold where the leaves lie gold, and a child comes forth alone. So the setting of this poem is like one of the nights that we've had recently, whether you live in Minnesota or Missouri or Texas. It's a dreary night.
Anywhere in between.
Yeah.
Or around.
It's a dreary night. It's a cold night. It's a long night. The nights are strong with the darkness long, and the dark is alive with rain. So it's not even a still night. Like, it's just raining, or it's snowy. It's cold. It's unpleasant. Right? It's the type of thing you stay inside. It's the type of thing you don't want to venture into. It's the type of thing that you don't exactly embrace. And yet, at the very beginning, there is heard a hymn, when the panes are dim, and never before or again. So wait. What's that song? What's a song sung in the midst of this time? And only in the midst of this time? Begs the question. So let's continue. Never we know, but in sleet and in snow, the place where the great fires are. That the midst of the earth is a raging mirth, and the heart of the earth a star. So we only find the place where the great fires are. We only know the place where the great fires are. In the midst of this cold, of this dark, of this sleet, of this snow. How does that work? How does that work? That's just a crucible of life. You know? That's how love works. That's how testing, all the sacrifices we go through life, all the trials we go through life. That's how all of it works. We could just coast through life comfortable and not really accomplishing anything, right? But we wouldn't really find ourselves. We wouldn't really become the best versions of ourselves. We wouldn't become who we're made to be without the trials, without the sacrifices, without the cold, without the dark, without the sleet, without the snow, without the distinct discomfort of all of those things. But no, in the midst of that, we find things like a great fire. The opposite comes alight. In the midst of that cold, dark earth is a raging mirth. All right. So out of pain we find humor, I guess, right? But no, out of pain we find life and joy through our perseverance to it. And the heart of the earth a star. And at night we win to the ancient inn where the child in the frost is furled. We follow the feet where all souls meet at the end of the world. So a couple things from that. This is not your journey specifically. This is not Ethan's journey specifically. This is not my journey specifically. This is everybody's journey. We all are alive. This is how life works. You don't get to, you don't get to opt out of that. That's what life is. And it's not a mere side quest you go on here and there. This is not like, oh, I dallied with this thing to find meaning, right? No, this is the entire purpose. We follow the feet where all souls meet. We're all in this together. We're all doing this thing, or we all got to do this thing at the inn at the end of the world. So, the end of the world, something not exactly pleasant. And yet there is something simple there. There is something homely there. And there is a child furled there. And we know who that child is. And when we find him, we lay our lives down for him. We lay all those parts of our lives down that are not tuned towards God, are out of order, are out of sync with just the goodness, the grandeur, the beauty, the simplicity that is God. The gods lie dead when the leaves lie red, for the flame of the sun is flown. The gods lie cold when the leaves lie gold, and a child comes forth alone. It's like those gods are all those distractions in our life. All the doom scrolling that I do, all of the completely useless crap that I do, or the good things that I do but that are done intemperately, right? Those die, or those need to die. But we get presented the chance for them to die when Christ comes. And Christ comes when the world is dying, when things are dark, when things are dreary, in autumn. Everything's getting cold, and yet the leaves lie red, and the flame of the sun is flown. There's beauty coming out of it, even in that darkness. The gods lie cold when the leaves lie gold. So now it's winter. Things are even worse. Things are even drearier. And a child comes forth alone. And in that child we put our faith and our trust, and we have no choice but to do so.
I have a couple of things to add. First, I think you've unintentionally drawn a poem. You've unintentionally chosen a poem that has parallel lines to the one that that you recommended for me. In the inn at the end of the world is when we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, there are themes in the Rolling English Road that carry through everything we're reading.
I think that's just because that's Chesterton. And that's when an author has sort of the same kind of view of death, when he has his allegory of death that he continuously draws to, he will return to that in every opportunity. So Chesterton sees the end of the world and the end of your life as an inn. It's a time to rest. It's a time... The inn is where you gather at the end of the day. You've been working all day, and now you go and drink. It's like the good parts of Valhalla. It's feasting and drinking. And it's rest. And heaven, paradise, is just beyond that rest. The inn at the end of the world. We will come and we will rest, and then when we leave the inn, we will know more beauty and magnificence than we have ever thought possible. The other that I want to draw, got to bring my mind back around to it. So Chesterton is illustrating God's habit of being ironic. When Christ was born, most pagan cultures at that time, particularly those that experience, fall and winter. Fall, everything is dying, and winter is not supposed to be a happy time. The Norse don't have Bing Crosby singing Silver Bells in the background all the time.
No, doesn't sound like it.
No. We do, and I'm very happy for that. But most pagan cultures see fall and winter as times of dying and death. Ending. And especially when the world is harsh and hard and you have to make your living by the sweat of your brow, the blood of your hands, and the breaking of your own back. It's all you can do just to make it through the winter. Now, Palestine does not really have a winter. Kind of like Los Angeles. It's nice all the time. But when this news is spreading to other cultures that actually do have wintertime, that's why most of our Christmas traditions come from the Germanic, the Gallic. They come from the Viking and the Saxon. At the time when the world is supposed to be dead, because that's how a lot of pagans saw it, was that at the end of the year the world dies, and at the beginning of the year it comes back to life. It's the reincarnation of spring. basically. Why was Christ not born at the beginning of spring? Because God does not follow the patterns of the pagans. We do not worship a pagan god. Christ is born shortly after the start of winter. The first day of winter is sometime in December. I think it's like the 12th or something. I'm not sure.
21st.
The 21st. I got the right numbers. They were just in the wrong order.
Partial credit.
So our Lord is born 4 days after the first day of winter. By the Gregorian calendar, anyway. When the world is supposed to have just died, there is now new life for everyone. There is now hope. The great hope of the universe comes when all is bleak and cold and dark. Because the author of the universe likes being ironic, and he likes flipping pagan traditions on their head. Rejoice, for he is born. Now, in the springtime, we have Easter, which is the rising to new life. But instead of winter just being constantly bleak and sad, and oh, we're just trying to survive, we have something to celebrate. And we have something to be hopeful about and to be thankful for. That was just a thought that I had, with the old gods lying dead, when the leaves lie red. He's also talking about, literally, the old gods. He's talking about Zeus, and Thor, and Moloch, and Baal. They all lie dead at the feet of Christ. And he had not but to touch them and to speak a word.
He just had to show up.
All he had to do was show up. And they vanish. So I just thought it was very, very interesting. Because
No,
especially
it certainly
since part of that, the world dying, is the gods abandon us at wintertime. And then when they come back in the springtime to see if we're still alive, then they bestow their graces upon us again.
Yeah, what a depressing worldview.
Yeah, I know.
And it's, like you said,
And people,
it's
and people think paganism is a good thing.
oh no.
No, all it does is make you sad and cold and tired and miserable.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's God showing up in the midst of something, but like, everybody hold up a second. I made winter. Winter's mine. Yeah, winter's a time where you feel the least hope, the least prospects, the least... I mean, you just spent the last 9 months preparing for this just so you could survive and make it through the next 9 months. Like, nah, we're going to make this the most glorious time.
He made the flame, and he made the frost. You have a reason to keep living, even in winter.
Yeah, and you have a God who cares for you, who sent his only son into the midst of that winter, just to be with you, and to die for you, you know? Yeah, could God have done the human thing by bringing him in the springtime? Sure. Could our redemption have been achieved by our God literally just showing up and being the great king over all and staying with us forever and ruling over the world? Like, actually ruling over the world physically in the way we conceive of how a king would?
In the only way that globalism could ever possibly work.
Yeah. Like, yes, he could have. And yes, that would have worked, and our redemption would have been achieved by it. But no.
He chose not to.
He chose to do the more fitting thing. To send his
People
son as
are
a
begging
babe in
him
the
to do
midst
it.
of the cold, and then to have that son die on a cross.
Yeah.
Excruciatingly.
The greatest victory coming from the greatest shame. Again, God's sense of irony.
Yep. But no, it turns out that all of creation is his. And then, just like Iluvatar in the Silmarillion, is just daring the devil. Like, whatever you do, it will be incorporated into my work.
Mm-hmm.
And my work will be the greater for it.
Basically, every time the devil moves to do something, God becomes Dirty Harry. Go ahead, make my day.
Yep. Basically. And there's a lesson for that in all of us, you know?
I know what you're thinking. Was that 7 days of creation or just 6?
No,
Or was that 6 days of creation or just 5?
But there's a lesson in that for all of us. You know? There's a lesson for that in all of us, and we already know it. Like, we don't really do a good job of identifying with Christ at the wedding feast of Cana. God having a great time at a wedding, and oh, by the way, making like 600 or 800 gallons of wine for a giant crowd for 3 days. Sounds like a great time. But no, we don't really identify with that very well. We identify with him on the cross. Or somehow that's easier for us because we know how bad our own sufferings are, how difficult our own sufferings are, and how we can't face them alone. And so here's God himself who came and showed us how to do it.
There is a reason he started, it went with his public ministry, he started at a feast, at a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
He ended first by having a feast, and then by dying the most brutal and painful death that any human being has ever had to endure. I would say it's a tragedy, and if that was all we looked at, it would be a tragedy. Very Shakespearean, because in the classical sense, a tragedy is when things start off okay, and then they end very, very badly.
Mm-hmm.
Romeo and Juliet, everything starts off okay, and then a couple of mixed-up teenagers run away from home and end up dead. But it is not a tragedy. It is a romance. A romance in the classical sense is where things are good, and then they're bad. Then they're good, and they're bad again. And then they're good, and then they're bad again, and ultimately they end up being good. This is why I had a romantic comedy, because a comedy, in the traditional sense, is the opposite of a tragedy, where things start off really bad and end up really good.
Mm-hmm.
A romantic comedy, if you follow the pacing of a romantic comedy, or the tone of romantic comedy, it is always the same. Everything is kind of bad, then it becomes kind of good, then it gets bad again, then it's really good at the very end. So it follows the same start and end point of the comedy, but it follows the path of the romance. And the romance can start in the middle. It can start at the top, it can start at the bottom, it can start anywhere. But a romance goes up and down and up and down. And the story of our salvation is an epic and a romance.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say to that is that it's not good to bad to good to bad to good to bad. It's good to bad to better to bad to even better to bad to even better to bad.
Yes, the lows are about the same. The highs are better every time. Because there's only so bad that things can get. But good comes infinitely. There is no such thing as infinite bad. There is such a thing as infinite good. Do you know why? Because God is the only infinity in the universe. And God is all good. And God did not create evil. Evil is the absence of him.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a point at which things can only get so evil. And so bad and wrong.
Yeah, but no. There's a limit to that. There's no limit to love.
There is no limit to love and goodness. Or mercy, for that matter. With that, there is, however, a limit to my glass. So what I'm going to do is go and get another drink.
All right.
Because we've got 2 more poems to get through.
An intermission, then. I shall pour more whiskey.
So I said earlier that everything is better with bourbon. That would include poetry, even though the poetry we have is very, very good. I went and got some bourbon. This is 4 Roses.
Excellent. Excellent indeed.
It's like if the only liquor I ever had for the rest of my life was 4 Roses and Quiet Man, because don't ever ask me to pick between the 2 of those, because I'll probably just punch you in the face. If you ask me to choose between 4 Roses and Quiet Man, I'll just choose violence. That's
violence, the mean between the extremes.
But if the only liquors that I could ever have for the rest of my life were 4 Roses and Quiet Man, I would be a very happy, 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 happy man.
Mm-hmm. Now you've got me wondering what an infinity bottle of those would taste like.
You know, maybe that's what's waiting for me in paradise. There's a never-ending supply of 4 Roses and Quiet Man.
Mixed together, though. That's what I mean by an infinity bottle.
Ooh.
You have a decanter. You could make this a thing.
I could. But do I dare?
And you do know that the Keeper's Heart is good. And you know what Keeper's Heart is.
That is true. The Keeper's Heart is bourbon and Irish whiskey. Ooh.
Anyway. You got something to think about now.
Now you got me also thinking about taking Guinness Extra Stout and Dragon's Milk Stout.
It'd be good. You know, I poured the bourbon, and then I thought to myself, like, wait, I could just go get Guinness Extra Stout. That would have been fitting.
Man, now I want to make a black and tan with Tails of Gold and Dragon's Milk Stout.
Ooh, that's going to be a concoction. That's a real concoction.
Problem is, I don't know the proper method of pouring that, so I'd probably screw it up.
Both in the same glass at the same time. Just
Oh, and they naturally separate out.
well,
The reason that
Well,
works
I
is
don't-
because the dark beer is lighter in terms of weight than the light beer, so that there will actually be a line of separation.
part of me wonders if that's down to the ABV, but it can't be because, well, maybe it is because
The ABV would be the same. It's 11% everything that they do.
they are. But like a regular black and tan, or a regular,
Alcohol is very light, like a Pilsner and a stout.
but Guinness is actually lighter than Blue Moon, I think, and that's the combo for a black and blue.
That's true.
But then
And
again,
Guinness and Pilsner is, I don't know what Pilsner is, alcohol-wise.
would probably vary on the Pilsner. So,
I know better than to order a black and tan in Ireland.
no. We've
The
got
black and tan were the Irish conscripts that the English used to enforce law and order in Ireland when the English were in charge.
oh, yeah, don't be doing that.
If you ever heard the song "Come Out You Black and Tans," that's who that's about.
Oh, great. But no, we should do an episode where we do married drafts. Because we haven't done married drafts. Well, you may not have done married drafts since Blarney Stone. Or unless you're like me and you ordered them at the Chesterton's pub at Mary. Because it turns out that mixing the South Farthing Stout and the Green Dragon Ale was a very fine thing.
You know, you're making me miss the Chesterton's pub.
Good. I miss
Making
it
me
too.
wish that I could go up there.
I miss it
I know
too.
it's a genuine pub. When it's open, anybody can just walk in and order.
There's probably a way we could do a podcast episode there. Y'all just have to make us popular enough.
Just get us popular enough. No, we don't have to just get popular enough. Somehow, somebody, show us to Monsignor Shea. If he likes us, then he'll say it's fine. 'Cause all we need is Monsignor Shea's approval.
So what do you have for us on the next poem?
So we are going to go across the pond. We are going to go from England's second best poet. Although Chesterton was not primarily a poet. And I know that Tennyson is at least in the top 5 of English poets, because he wrote very, very good stuff too. But we are going to go across the pond to America's best poet. And this is not up for debate. I know we can technically lay claim to T.S. Eliot. He was born in St. Louis. But he did renounce his citizenship, so he doesn't count.
Okay. Probably for the sake of poetry, but anyway.
We are going to go to Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Again, as I said, America's finest poet.
I don't know enough American poets to even want to.
I don't either, but I know I don't really either, but I know Longfellow, and there is no way that anybody can match him. That he's that good.
All right.
Like, probably not even Mark Twain, even though I don't know if Mark Twain didn't really even write. He didn't really write poetry. He mostly wrote short stories when he was just in the mood to write stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. So I've never heard of a poem by him.
So Longfellow he was alive during the American Civil War. That's when he wrote I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, which we will go over another time, because that's one of my favorite poems. He's my grandmother's favorite poet. He is, I would say, after Tolkien's poetry, Longfellow's is my next pick. He even takes a place above Chesterton, despite being a Protestant. He was a very good poet. And he was very, very wise. And he loved our Lord. He suffered much, as many artists do. He was married multiple times. All of his wives died.
Ooh.
And he never forgot his first wife, who he was in love with still, even when he was married to the other two. He thought 2 of his sons had died in the Civil War. They were in the Union Army. And he thought they were dead because there was I forget which battle it was. Maybe Gettysburg, or it might have been Fredericksburg. And he didn't hear from them after that. He heard about the battle. He knew that their regiments were involved, and he didn't hear from them. They didn't die. They were okay. But he spent months basically in the agony of my only sons are dead. And that was when he wrote I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. So a man who endured great suffering, but also was able to see the light and the beauty. Great devotion to Christ, great devotion to God. And one day I hope to see him in paradise. He wrote from what I understand to be America's only epic poem. Well, technically there are 2. But the other one is borderline Union propaganda. So he wrote an epic poem called The Song of Hiawatha. It's definitely America's first epic poem about an Indian warrior, an Algonquin warrior. That is very, very good. By the Shores of the Gitchigumi. I hadn't intended on going on a little biography of Longfellow. One of these days I'll go more in-depth into his life when I know more about it. But
it's a worthy introduction, though.
To make a long story short, he's America's greatest poet. One of the greatest poets ever. Certainly my favorite. Barring Tolkien, my favorite poet ever. So let's read this poem of his called A Psalm of Life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act. Act in the living present, here within, and God o'erhead. Heart within, and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. I don't know a whole lot about when Tolkien wrote this poem.
When Longfellow wrote this poem.
Or when Longfellow wrote this poem. Thank you for correcting me. Tolkien would approve of this poem, by the way. This is right up his alley. Maybe that's why I like Longfellow, because he and Tolkien were of the same human mindset.
Longfellow seems like a northerner that Tolkien would have got along with.
Yes. Yeah, Longfellow was a good Yankee. And there's a sort of pretext to this psalm, what the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Well, Longfellow is the psalmist, and he's writing this probably when he's old. I don't know exactly when he wrote this poem, but he's probably writing it as an old man. What the heart of the young man said, it's the young man's heart. A young man is a heart full of hope and looking forward, which is how we should be. He looks forward with hope, he looks forward with strength, he looks forward with determination. An old man perhaps only looks forward with patience, or with anticipation. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Take your nihilistic and cynical garbage and put it where it belongs, in the garbage. That's what it is, it's garbage. And this is sort of the early days of nihilism, I suppose, at least in the United States, because civil wars will do that to a people. I think this also is something that a lot of people should probably keep in mind today. Because every day it seems like there's something new out there, some new scandal or some new inside information about this politician isn't what he says he is, or there's new conspiracy theories and all of that. Put those things aside. Toss them in the garbage, because that's what they are, they're garbage. I'm accentuating a Yankee accent a little bit when I do that, for a number of reasons that I won't get into, but...
We're offending the New Yorkers, but they probably aren't listening anyway, so...
Well, the ones that are still in New York probably aren't. The ones that would listen to us they've probably left already.
They may well have.
In anticipation of Mamdani's communist paradise. So the second stanza, life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. We are made of dust. This does remind me of a good joke. A little boy came home to his father and said, Dad, today in catechism, they said, to dust thou art and to dust thou shalt return. What does that mean? And the father sat down and he said, well, son, According to the Bible, man is made of dust. And then when your life is over, you go back to dust. You get put in the ground and you return to the dust. You see? So you come from dust and you go back to the dust. Do you understand that? And he goes, oh, I see. Well, in that case, you better go upstairs and look under the bed because somebody's either coming or going.
The logic is unassailable, I say.
It's an old joke, but it's a good one. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave, it's not its goal. So life is what is here. Life still happens. This makes me... This line reminds me. Recently, Michael Knowles did a video. He typically does, like, reviewing the funnies that either one of his producers or the audience will submit. But lately he did things where it was just like, try not to smile. Just like, try not to feel happy when watching this. It was just good, genuinely wholesome things. Like one of them, there was this, it looked like it was from a local news station. The newsman is standing in front of the camera. He's talking into the microphone. And this girl with Down syndrome comes up behind him and just starts waving at the camera and smiling. And then she does this. She goes... It's like, you can't help but smile at that because of how adorable it is.
Yeah.
And the point that he made about that Knowles made about all of this was that it is good to see this sort of thing. It is good that this sort of content is breaking through the slop a little bit because it reminds you that life is still happening. Life is real and life is earnest. The grave is not its goal. We don't just, it isn't just life sucks and then you die. We are living for something beyond heaven. Now, ultimately, on the last day, we will have the resurrection and our bodies will get to join us. But this life on earth is not all that there is. And the grave is not the end goal. Yeah, and to dust thou art and to dust thou shalt return. That's only the body. The soul is immortal. So take care of your soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. We're not here for the in and outs. We're not here for hedonism. We're not here just to experience the bad stuff. I'll repeat this a lot, but it's not just that life sucks and then you die. Life does suck sometimes. And life is happy sometimes. To act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Farther morally and spiritually.
Ever up and ever in.
Your goal is not to be better than another man. Your goal is to be a better man today than you were yesterday. Fall 7 times and stand up 8. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Yes, we have beautiful things, but we only have so much time. And your heart may be strong, and it may beat firmly and loudly, and you may be strong like bull. But the beat of your heart is a funeral march to your grave. Remember, you will die. So make the most of your life. Memento mori. In the world's broad field of battle in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. I like how he uses the word bivouac, just as an aside here. That's not a word a lot of people use. It's a really good word. It's a good military word.
It's an army camp, right?
Yeah. Yeah, usually a temporary one. Like bivouac just means to make camp, or it's the camp that we're making. In the world's broad field of battle in the bivouac of life. Because this life is a battle. Somebody is always fighting. And if you're not fighting, you're bivouacked. You're resting. You're just making camp. Mm-hmm. Be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. So don't just go where everybody else is going. Which he is speaking to everybody. He's not saying, oh, some people are cattle and others are going to lead the way. No. Nobody should be cattle. Nobody should be as a sheep. Be a hero in the strife. You stand and wave that flag. And you stand and hold high the cross.
Something greater than yourself, right? And
you charge.
Something greater than, well, I'm going to be a couch potato and watch the game.
You know, there's that great scene at the end of The Patriot, which is one of the best movies ever, definitely in my top 10. When Mel Gibson picks up that flag and starts waving it, and he reverses a retreat. And what he's actually doing is he's saving his men's lives because they are retreating right into the dragoons that are going to just kill all of them. but he reverses the retreat. Now, in our viewing of that movie, or in any film where there's this great heroic speech, like Aragorn at the Black Gate, where he charges, he gives this great speech, and then he charges the Black Gate. Yes, that's very heroic to be the first one on the line, but every man in that charge is a hero. Now, the song may only be sung about the man who led the charge, but every man who followed is a hero as well, because you still have that choice to make. Every rider of the Rohirrim that charged down that plain at Pelennor Fields and screamed, "We ride for Gondor, we ride for death and the world's ending." Every one of those men is a hero, based on a choice they made back in Rohan to go with the king. So it isn't that you're going with the crowd. Now, being with others who are willing to do the same thing may help you, and it may encourage you. But there is more than one inspiring speech in film and in books and in television where the leader basically says, "No man here will consider you a coward if you back out. You have homes and you have families. I understand."
Mm-hmm.
Every man that fought on Crispin's Day was a hero. To the English, anyway. I don't know what the French think of them.
Well, who cares about the French?
But that's really what that line means. Following in a charge is not being a dumb and driven cow. You are a hero in your own right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line from a novel that I read. There's a tabletop strategy game called BattleTech about big mechs and things that has lore behind it, similar to how Warhammer does. It has lore behind it that is written out in novels. 70-plus novels written over the years since its inception. The first in a trilogy of these novels, there is a line I will never forget. The main character is a mech pilot in training, is technically a lieutenant, but he's a lieutenant cadet, so he still reports to a sergeant. And the sergeant says something that I'll always remember. He says that when a man is on the firing line, he fights for the life of the man standing next to him. But it was home and family that put him on the firing line in the first place. They are the ones that you are a hero to. You are a hero in the strife. Your home and your family. Because you are fighting and dying to protect them. Because that's what heroes do. You put yourself at mortal risk in order to protect those that you love. Greater love hath no man than this.
Then a man lay down his life for his friends.
Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erhead. Don't think really too much about the future. You can plan for it, but don't think about it. However pleasant, even if things, as they seem to you, it looks like, your crypto holdings are going to do really great and you'll be a billionaire by the time you're 70. Or by the time you're 40 because of crypto. Or whatever it is, investments, whatever. However pleasant it is, you've just gotten engaged to a beautiful woman. Trust no future because they're not assured. Doesn't matter how pleasant it is. And let the dead past bury its dead. The past is dead and gone. And memory is the only thing that remains. And he's drawing a line from our Lord's own lips. Let the dead bury their dead. Because they are gone. And there is no sense dwelling on them. If it happened, yeah, it happened. I'm sorry that it happened. Whatever the bad thing was. But it's gone. Things that are in the past cannot hurt you anymore. Even if they come and visit you in your dreams. Even if you see them in your mind. They cannot hurt you. They still cannot harm your body, and they cannot harm your soul.
No. Because even for the ones that seem like they would, grief was made as an emotion. It's a holy emotion for a reason. You still have something you can do, and that is healing.
And it is proper to grieve. Our Lord didn't say you shouldn't grieve and you shouldn't actually bury your dead when he said, let the dead bury their dead, because burying the dead is a corporal work of mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it is a horrible tragedy for a man to lie in an unmarked grave. Because how does anybody know who to pray for? Or even that there is a man there to be prayed for. Basically, he is just saying, that particular context was remove your earthly attachments. Mm-hmm. So release your attachments to the past. Don't dwell. because that does no good. Dwelling on the past and dwelling on things that have been done aren't going to fix anything. What I had said earlier about even some bad things that your country has done, quit dwelling on them. Yes, these bad things happened. Yes, Wounded Knee happened. Yes, the Trail of Tears happened. Yes, slavery was a thing. But it is in the past. Let the dead past bury its dead. And let it stay buried. There's no purpose and no good that can come from digging it up. Act in the living present, heart within, and God o'erhead.
I'll briefly say, grieve it as it ought be grieved.
Yeah.
And then it shall be truly dead.
Act in the living present, heart within, and God o'erhead. Your choices happen now. Your decisions happen now. The only thing that you can have any influence over, any control over, is now. By your heart, by your own will, by your own fortitude, and the guidance of God above you. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. So there are great men of history whose lives are very well recorded. Some good and others not so good. We can choose to follow them or not. But this stanza goes along with the next one. Footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother seeing shall take heart again. Maybe somebody else will see you and see, wait a minute, I'm not the only one. He's doing it. He's fighting. So I can stand and fight too.
That applies to more people than you think.
Yeah.
It applies to even people that you don't know and that don't know you.
You know, if you're a grocery clerk, it even applies to just that one guy having a bad day that came in to buy a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just making eye contact with him. The eyes are the window to the soul. Maybe he will see something in you that will make him realize maybe it's not a good idea to drown my sorrows in that bottle. So stamp your feet and plant them firmly and leave good, clear footprints for others to follow. And be sure they're pointed in the right direction. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing. Learn to labor and to wait. Work and patience. You know, this Psalm of Life, the first stanza and the last particularly, these are things that we run across a lot today. I don't think Longfellow had any concept of how poignant those lines would have been in the year of our Lord 2026. Learn to labor and to wait. There is so much instant gratification nowadays. We forget that if you want to actually be genuinely happy, you have to work for it. Now you may come back to me and whine and say, oh, but I am working. You're probably not working hard enough. And probably not working in the right ways. Work on yourself. And I don't mean that the way that Gen Z girls go, oh, I'm just really working on myself right now. Actually work on yourself. Make yourself a better man. Take the hammer and the chisel and carve at your soul. Let every hammer blow. Send chips of granite flying. Crack the marble. That is the work that you should be doing.
Because you're stubborn, and there's a lot of chopping to do.
Yeah.
To paraphrase Saint Zully Martin, the mother of Saint Therese of Lisieux, she had a line where basically it was, yeah, I got going at this late in life, even though she may well have been fine beforehand, and I have a lot to wood to chop, so basically, let's get on with the chopping.
Start chopping wood. And, you know, according to Floyd Mayweather, chopping wood is just a really good exercise anyway, so just go do it.
Not the person I thought you would have quoted on this podcast. Well done. He is my favorite boxer. So.
I just remember watching him destroy Conor McGregor and being very happy about it. But learn to labor and to wait. It takes work, and it doesn't happen now. You may not get it right away. That future you're not supposed to be looking forward to, it's not going to come for a long time. You still got to wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons you shouldn't be too excited about it. Because you can do all the math as it stands right now about your investments and your Bitcoin and your other crypto and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I'll have X amount of money by the time I'm 65. Well, you don't know that for sure. But on top of that, don't start acting like that's the amount of money you have now. Work for it and wait. And that can be true for basically anything.
Mm-hmm.
You may think you're hot stuff and you're all that in a bag of chips and that every woman would be happy to have you. If that's your attitude, I can guarantee you that you're wrong.
A very dangerous thing to think for anybody.
I won my wife's heart when I was not trying to.
That's how it goes.
That's my advice. One day we'll talk about marriage and relationships and I'll give my advice even though it's not very good. But the right woman you have to wait for. Or if there are women watching, the right man. And yes, that is the only correct combination. I'm not going to entertain any others.
Oh no. Oh no.
The right woman will come along in time. If a woman is what God has planned for you. And ladies, be the right man. But you must labor and wait for that delayed reward.
No, I could echo a number of different things within this poem, and I do need to get on to the final one. But I'll just echo that 6th stanza, as you already have. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erhead. Yeah, that example of, I think I have the crypto stuff, or I just met this great woman. Or I just got engaged to this great woman. And I think that's the example I'll stick on for part of this. I just got engaged to this great woman, right? You don't know how life is going to go with that. And you have no way of knowing. Because I can guarantee you, even though I'm not married, God willing I will be one day, that marriage is going to suck a lot of days. It's going to drain you in ways you didn't know you could be drained. I expect this of it for myself. It's going to require you to bear up so many crosses and make so many sacrifices that you didn't know were possible. You didn't think were part of life. Even if you could try and imagine them all right now. And there's no point in trying to imagine all of them. Just the point is that you can't. And so it's going to be really hard. But it turns out that being married is hard and being single is hard. It turns out being happy is hard, and it turns out being sad is hard. So in the words of Cody Sanchez, choose your hard. And there is a correct hard to choose. And you find what that looks like not by looking into the future and not by looking into the past, but by looking at the present, right? Yes, we can make plans for the future. Yes, we can store up treasures for their proper use later on, as part of laboring and being patient and waiting. But the right way to view that is as the correct action for the present, not the correct action for the future, even if it can be both. It is the best way you can be making use of your current moment, which is the only moment that with certainty you are given. And on the flip side, the past, we have great memories we can draw into the present to inspire us. We also may have great wounds of the past that are not only in the past, but they are with us in the present because they have not been dealt with, or because we've ignored them, or just because things take time to heal, right? So part of your present then is doing the grieving, is allowing the Lord to heal you, is trying to work on that healing. That is now part of your present, that you are supposed to act in the living present. It's still living. And attend to the people around you. Attend to the things of your life that happen to be around you right now. Not Napoleon, but that rolling road from earlier that you happen to be on right now. Right? I've quoted Father Zizek before in his book, He Leadeth Me, and I'll quote him again. Well, I'll paraphrase kind of one of his points or summarize it. If you want to know what the will of God is in your life, look around you. Not to the future, not to the past, but to the present, the things you have to deal with right now. Whether that's wounds to be healed from, work to be done, joy to be had, celebrations to be done, mourning to undergo. Whatever the case is, whatever is your lot in the present moment, do that. Do that to the best of your ability, and then in the next moment, do that again. And you'll find that life is pretty simple and pretty good. It's still complicated, it's still messy, it's still painful, it's still full of sorrow, but it is beautiful, and it is also full of joy, and that joy infinitely outweighs the sorrow. And for further examples of that, we turn to our last poem, which, in a way, is very similar to A Psalm of Life. But granted, it's also by Longfellow, so you can imagine some crossover in themes. But
It's more of a specific circumstance in which the
Yes.
Psalm of Life is applied.
so this is the village blacksmith. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands, and the muscles of his brawny arms are strong as iron bands. His hair is crisp and black and long, his face is like the tan. His brow is wet with honest sweat, he earns whate'er he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge, with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell, when the evening sun is low. And children coming home from school look in at open door. They love to see the flaming forge, and hear the bellows roar, and catch the burning sparks that fly, like chaff from a threshing floor. He goes to Sunday to the church, and sits amongst his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice, singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice, singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies, and with his rough hand, he wipes a tear out of his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin, each evening sees its close. Something attempted, something done, has earned a night's repose. Thanks to thee, my worthy friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus at the flaming forge of life our fortunes must be wrought. Thus on its sounding anvil shaped each burning deed and thought. So in a phrase, the purpose of life. But we can't just leave it at that. Under a spreading chestnut tree, this village smithy, this large, sinewy-handed, brawny man, stands like this pinnacle of manhood in the perfect image, like this great man under this great tree. Why wouldn't we idealize that?
I don't know if you've ever seen a chestnut tree, but they're huge.
We need them to make a comeback in America. So, this pinnacle of manhood, right? And he's got a cool job, right? But all of that is kind of surface level, right? That first image we're presented with, the great man under the great tree. And we might think to ourselves, well, wait, let's dive in. What does that actually look like on a daily basis, right? Being a smithy is probably pretty repetitive. It's not work that most of us would be used to, unless you work in a factory, and we haven't said the best things about that. You know? So wait, is this all that?
Well, here's the thing about smithing. Every blow of the hammer shapes the steel to the will of the smith. You are bending steel to your own designs.
Well, I know there's a craftsmanship to it, but that doesn't exist in a factory.
The blacksmith and the carpenter exist in the same class of person, in the same class of work.
Mm-hmm.
And they both deserve the same amount of respect.
Well, I agree. But there still might be a reaction from an onlooker like, wait, is that really all that? Would that not be boring? Like, how would that work? Is this image what it seems? So let's dive in. Initially, we're told more of the same, week in, but then we go on. Week in, week out, from morn till night. You can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. So, the work is boring. The work
and constant and tedious.
And constant and tedious and rhythmic and... Wait, where's the joy in that? But no, it turns out that there is a beauty, an observable and livable beauty, in just honest hard work, and in the rhythm of that honest hard work, which is something that many folks, myself included, so easily miss. in life. I mean, it's easy for any of us to do that. And what's funny is that, and this is a theme that will be visited more in a bit, but from the perspective of the outside is where we're seeing this. And from the perspective of the outside, this is something for us to look up to. You're walking down the street in your town, and you just know the blacksmith's over there. You can hear him. You can hear the rhythm of his beat. And somehow that gives you just a little bit more joy in your life as you walk by. Because he's just doing his thing, and he's doing it well. It's interesting how that works, but it's a good thing to ponder. And children coming home from school look in at the open door. They love to see the flaming forge and hear the bellows roar, and catch the burning sparks that fly, like chaff from a threshing floor. So they get it. The kids get it, that this is a really cool thing to look up to, and furthermore, they want to share in it, and he's okay with sharing it with them. And this is something from my own life where I've really desired that one day I will be able to share the work that I do with my children, that I can somehow bring my family into work, which doesn't mean they can do the work with me. And in fact, it might look very similar to this, where the children decidedly are not being blacksmiths. Mm-hmm. They are not swinging any hammers, but they are dancing in the area, and they're just catching sparks. They're around, and there is a beauty to that I hope to have one day, and that I think many men before me and after me have wanted and will want to have in their lives. And we get more of this blacksmith's life. It's not just about his work. He goes on Sunday to church and listens and sits amongst his boys and listens to his daughters sing. And it makes his heart rejoice. So he's got his family. It's a complete life. But his wife isn't listed until the next stanza, where she ain't with us anymore. She is passed. And God willing, she is singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies, and with a hard, rough hand he wipes a tear out of his eyes. And yet somehow, we would say it's a complete life still. We all know that. And it's true. It's the life he has. It is the present that he has. And how glorious. Even with the grief. Even with her not there. You get the sense that he is grieving as any man would. As any man ought to. In remembrance of his wife. And I hope to never experience that, because I hope to die first. And yet, he didn't stop rejoicing at his daughter's singing. And I assume that he is proud to sit amongst his boys, and he is happy to sit and listen to the parson preach. And so to sum it up, toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin, each evening sees its close. Something attempted, something done, has earned a night's repose. And obviously that applies to the work he's doing as a blacksmith, but that applies to the act of living itself. That applies to all of the different rhythms of life beyond just the swing of his hammer. For those rhythms include being present to his boys and his daughter, and perhaps even being present to his wife, even in the only way that he can, and to all those around him, and to those other children that came in and played with the sparks, and to all the randos that pass by and need something from him, or don't need something from him. They're all part of the rhythms of life, and his job is his job. His job is to be present to all of them, to do his task, and to do it well. And so to him we say, thanks, my worthy friend, for the lesson you've taught. Thus at the flaming forge of life our fortunes must be wrought, thus on its sounding anvil shaped each burning deed and thought. And we don't know if that author was a friend, or his son, or his daughter, or some random passerby who saw him once and never again. It's valid regardless. And in fact, because we know how the communion of saints works, it didn't even have to be somebody that was there, who saw him at all, who knew of his existence. Because our good deeds can bring good throughout the world in ways we know not. He has taught a lesson, and he has taught it well, because he's lived it well. And his footsteps are footsteps that we can follow. When we act as, the forlorn wayside feller from A Psalm of Life, and we find them and are glad to find them. Like, okay, we got it. This is the way to do things. That's rambling of me, but we have a task in this life. We don't know fully what it is. We can know by God's grace what it is in each moment. We can trust in what it is in each moment that we have. But our job is to do it. We don't know where it'll lead, because that's part of the adventure of life. You don't know where it'll lead. Just like in the marriage I hope to have one day, God willing, I don't know how, I mean this carefully, I don't know how happy it'll be, or not. I don't know how sorrowful it'll be, or painful it'll be, or not. But I do know how joyful it will be if I just do my job. Because what's better than joy? I said carefully because happiness is more equated with comfort and pleasure, and obviously that's a good thing. And I hope for a great deal of it. And I think there will be a great deal of it. But even if for some reason there wasn't, if it was my lot in life as ordained by God, there can be an infinite amount of joy there. Because it is my task. Because it is my calling. Because it is the great love of my life. And nothing need change about that. If anything, it's only going to be even more beautiful. You know? So whatever it looks like, I'm signing up for the joy. Whatever form it takes. I suspect some people will find that as a aside, and then I'll shut up. I suspect some people will find that unromantic. I don't care. I think it is actually more romantic than they think.
Well, we have already established that a romance involves ups and downs.
Yeah.
You cannot have the ups of a romance without the downs. That is how that story goes.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally, that is how that story goes and is meant to go. I don't think I have anything to add. I think you've captured everything quite well. That this particular poem shows us a lot. It shows us the right image of manhood. And we'll come back to this poem, I think, when we actually do an episode on manhood and what manhood truly is. Because we see this image of the village smithy under the spreading chestnut tree, which, by the way, for a long time, every child in every school in America had this poem memorized.
Really?
I memorized this poem when I was, I think, in about 4th or 5th grade. I think. I had since forgotten it, but it is a fantastic poem, and now that I am grown, I can actually fully appreciate it, and I can put myself a little bit into that smithy's shoes. We see this image of the smithy beneath the spreading chestnut tree. A chestnut tree is huge. So it's a big, big man. A big, strong man under a very large, strong tree. It's a comforting sort of image. Because, you know, he is there and the tree is there. And they can both offer protection.
Mm-hmm.
And that he is always there. You can hear his hammer ringing on the metal on the anvil. Him and the carpenter across the street. A village is lulled to sleep by the sound of anvil and saw. Those are the noises of the day.
The anvil, the saw, and the soft chorus of the tavern. And the bells of the church. Like, that's a complete life.
And the children want to watch. Longfellow forgets to mention, I do carpentry on the side, so I have... It's my own little thing. This is my own little thing. He fails to mention the children that are at the door of the carpenter as well, watching him saw and shape and shave wood. But really quick, I want to look at these two stanzas in the church on Sunday. He hears his daughter's voice, and it reminds him of the voice of the wife that he lost. My wife is still living and hopefully will be for quite some time. I hope very much. What I hope, actually, is that we die at the same time. That we die on the same day. That is the best possible outcome, because then neither of us are left widowed. And then we die like Baron and Luthien. Or we can end up like Baron and Luthien. They didn't die on the same day, but you get the point.
It's possible they did. I'm not... I don't know. I don't know about that one.
With his hard, rough hand, he wipes a tear out of his eye. Now, there are those who seem to think... I'll go more into this when we talk about manhood, but there are those who seem to think that it is only proper for a man to feel emotion when loved ones die, and then you're only allowed to cry for like a minute and a half, and then that's it. That's not manhood. Because he wipes a tear out of his eye because that's the poetic way to do it, but I can guarantee you it's more than one tear. Remembering a wife that you lost because your daughter reminds you of her. Because that's kind of the definition of bittersweet.
More than one sob and more than one tear. More than one day and more than 1 year.
Yeah. But he wipes the tear from his eye because he is proud, unbelievably proud of his daughter. It says in the previous stanza, it makes his heart rejoice. But those are the songs his wife used to sing. And he can't hear them without being reminded that she was there and now she's gone. And that'll make any grown man cry. Now, there used to be an old saying, it's enough to make a grown man cry.
Mm-hmm.
Being a grown man doesn't mean you only cry in specific circumstances. Like, you're allowed to cry when your wife dies and that's it. Even then, you're only allowed one tear. That's it. One single tear. Other than that, you need to be a cold, emotionless husk. No, it isn't that you don't feel emotion or that you never show emotion of any kind. It's that you regulate it and you temper it and you make your emotions serve you and not the other way around. And even if this blacksmith is as strong and as peaceful a man as is required to be able only to shed a single tear at the thought of his dead wife, his sons are crying much more. His sons are weeping at the thought of their mother. And it's a wonder that his daughter can even hold her voice together as she sings. That does imply that their mother died when they were little, and they don't really remember her the way he does. But even this great many years after, he still remembers, and he still mourns. Toiling, rejoicing, and sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Because that's what life is. It is toil, it is rejoicing, and it is sorrowing. But there is an inn at the end of the world.
What a way to bring it back around.
And there is an inn at paradise. We return to paradise by way of an inn, where we can rest and celebrate, and then we know our glory. All temporal good must come from temporal work. You must shape your life on an anvil, with a hammer and fire. But at the end, there will be ale, and wine, and good company.
And great dancing. Like you said, temporal good comes from temporal work. But with God o'erhead, and with His grace, somehow eternal good comes from temporal work. Which is just another example of how evil has a limit, and good does not. So go onward through life, friends. Do your tasks.
Keep your heart within, and keep God o'erhead.
And we hope to see you at that inn, at the end of the world.
Praise be Jesus Christ.
Now and forever.